Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the music writing, ranking, and reviewing podcast we like to call Music Meltdown, in which we write, rank, and review any artist's discography, songs, musical topics, really whatever comes to mind. This episode, we are going back into my realm of bullshit in the 2000s indie rock sphere. It's even more my bullshit because we got a female lead singer of a band. Of course, talking about the 2000s indie legends, the Yeah Yeah Yeahs. Bit of a dance punk in some points, indie rock. Really, I don't know. They're kind of a weird group to describe because they did a lot of different stuff, dabbling in like synth pop and art rock at points. Obviously led by Karen O and the other people in the band that I already forgot the names of. But yeah, it's an interesting catalog. Only four records up until last year, in which they put out their first new one in around a decade. So pretty prolific in the aughts, but kind of slowed things down after then. Maybe there was something that I didn't know about. Whoops. But yeah, personally, didn't really know much Yeah Yeah Yeahs at all before this. Really, I only knew about them because of just some mentions on the Discord server that we're all mutually in, as well as Mike the Snare's videos on the Arctic Monkeys, in which he mentioned how they were not able to maintain their relevance in the 2010s. So, yeah, I went in pretty blind to this, although I was cautiously optimistic. I feel like they have a lot of cool elements to them. Rich, what was your previous knowledge with the Yeah Yeah Yeahs?
Didn't maintain their relevance. Well, they did stop putting out albums for quite a while, so there's that. I'm a fan. I went crazy for them right around when Fever to Tell dropped, and I was nuts for that album. And suffice it to say, I'm a fan. Really, really dig the Triple Yaz. I never saw them live, but I have been watching some of their live stuff on YouTube, and there's a concert from 2003, right around when their debut came out. That's just sizzling. So, recommend checking that out.
Nice. Just judging by the energy that they emit on their records, I bet they'd be a pretty cool live act. So
Yeah, I think so.
nice. Mark, what did you know about the Yeah Yeah Yeahs going into this?
Um, I can trace my history to the very first time I heard of them, which was June 5th, 2004, when they performed Maps on the MTV Movie Awards. I had not heard of them before that. I didn't know they existed. And that song just blew me away. I went out the next day and bought Fever to Tell, and I was a fan immediately. And they became my favorite band. They filled a void that had been present since the Talking Heads broke up. I did not have a favorite band for over 10 years. Then I had a new one, and they were my favorite band up until the around 2013. I finally started moving away from them. They were not making it easy on me. They never toured South Florida. I was dying to see them. They never came down here, and they weren't putting out very many albums. And right around the time I parted ways with them, they went into a hiatus. I've my interest in them is still strong, but it's not what it was 10 years ago. That's what I'll say.
Fair enough. Fair enough. As it appears, I'm very much the novice here, so that's fun, especially knowing that this is now the second favorite band of Mark's that he's covered here. So
Yeah, I'm waiting to see if you're going to pick up my third one also. The successor to Yeah Yeah Yeahs. I'm not going to mention it. I'll just see if it happens.
isn't it Citizen Co?
No,
Ooh, interesting.
but he's up there.
Nice, nice. Well, I
You're
figure.
young, Adrienne. We're not going to hold it against you. So,
Okay, fair enough. Any pressure I have is gone. I can say whatever mean words I want about this trio. With that being said, though, Rich, feel free to kick this off with your number 5.
all right. My number 5, Yeah Yeah Yeahs, the bottom of my list. I've got It's Blitz from 2009, their third album. When this first came out, I really didn't like the band's new direction. They largely took away the killer guitars and replaced them with disco synths. I wrote a 3-star review for this album on Amazon at the time. Since then, I have warmed up to It's Blitz to some degree. Uh, it's important to accept albums for what they are and not what you want them to be. But I still struggled with this one. It's a very shimmery album. Like pretty much all of these songs shimmer. Sometimes the keyboard lines are rather rudimentary, but they generally sound good. I had the feeling I had heard some of this stuff before, though. It starts off with Zero, which is very good, even though I find the lyrics, well, I'm not going to criticize the lyrics because, for one thing, I don't know if I could do any better, but I used to think, oh, this lyric is embarrassing, but maybe I just don't get it. But I wrote it down. The opening line, "Shake it like a ladder to the sun, makes me feel like a madman on the run." I I don't know. Make what you want of that. But it's actually a very euphoric sounding song, and I do think they pull it off. Heads Will Roll, I think, is a fun dance song. Skeletons is a gorgeous, rather minimalist track, very skeletal. Shame and Fortune has a badass bass part. And I quite love the slinky, funky dance Dragon Queen. And we get some jittery guitars on that one. I used to not be too keen on the track Hysteric. I thought it was too cutesy. And that line, "Suddenly you complete me," I was like, oh, what? Did Karen O just see Jerry Maguire or something? And I don't know. It was a turnoff, but I'm okay with the song now. I think it's a good, sweet song. Still not crazy about those hysteric interjections, though. Hysteric. I have also really warmed up to the final track, Little Shadow, a slow, stately number that sounds like it was written specifically to be the final track. So it's very fitting. And so I'm up to 4 stars with It's Blitz. I think it's very good.
Okay, then. That's interesting. Going into this, I always assumed there was kind of a baseline bottom, but as I've looked kind of more, it seems that there's a bit more divergence. A lot of people feel differently about this catalog, and with such a short one, that's good to hear. There's defenders of all these albums. Evidently, Rich is strong one of all these records. With that being said, however, my bottom record is going to be Mosquito. And yeah, it's just a really boring album to me. Generally speaking, it runs a little long, and despite Karen's very pleasant, great vocals, there's just such little to say about these songs. The guest verses from one Dr. Octagon are just absolutely terrible. And despite my neutrality to this project as a whole, I do think that there's an absolutely outstanding track with Sacrilege, just a totally killer song. I love the almost gospel-esque influence in the back half of it. Just absolutely sensational. I don't know. I felt very much nothing towards this album. Apathy is kind of how I would describe my relationship with the Yeah Yeah Yeahs as a whole. I get very little emotion from this band, and just I lack any sort of connection to most of their music, which is going to be a pretty big detractor for these records for me. But I can fully admit that there is plenty of unique elements to them, and I think that Karen O is a very strong singer. So I don't hate this. I don't dislike them per se. It's just I feel very bland, if that makes sense. I have this at 2.5 stars, and I'm gonna be there for a little bit. It's a pretty fine album with one just absolutely outstanding track. So Mosquito is my bottom.
Oh.
What were you doing? The cover of what were you doing? Like your own impersonation of the album artwork there?
Nah, you're
Right.
good.
My number 5 is the new one, Cool It Down. I'm just not connecting to this album at all. And but part of it may be because I'm not as connected to the band as I used to be. This 10-year hiatus, 9-year hiatus, whatever it was, has really, put a little bit of distance between me and all of them. But this album was, I was really looking forward to it, and I just haven't been able to connect with it. To me, the first track is probably it's the only one that I can actually listen to and not want to turn it off. Is the track "Spitting Off the Edge of the World" with Perfume Genius, but it really sounds more like a Perfume Genius track that the AAS are guesting on than a real AAS track. The rest of the album just doesn't sound like them to me at all. And one thing I've always appreciated is their growth from every album. They started out in one place, and no two albums sound alike. Each one is a different sound, and you can see a trajectory going in they're going up and up in their technique and their production and their instrumentation. There's solid growth. They haven't always gotten better, but they've done new stuff. And this one is new, but it's just not where where they landed on this one is not where I expected them, and I'm just not able to get there with them. And I'm not enjoying it at all. I gave it about 5 listens in the past 2 weeks, and I still can't get on board with it. I give it a 2, and it hurts me to say that, but Cool It Down is just a 2 for me. It may be able to get up to 2.5 or maybe even 3 in the future, but right now I'm just not enjoying it at all.
Ouch, ouch. I feel like a lot of your sentiments towards that record is kind of how I feel towards this band, though. I don't get that personal connection to that. And I want to apologize now because I know evidently Rich is already at 4 stars, and I know they were your favorite band at one point. It's just I don't know. I want to like them more. I think that they're interesting.
No need to apologize. You like what you like. It's all good, but yeah, I'm clearly a way bigger fan than your ass. All right. Let's go number 4. I've got Cool It Down. What Mark was just talking about, album from last year, their 5th most recent album. And I was thrilled to get new Triple Yaz after such a long time. We waited 9 years, and I ate this up when it came out. The album is very synth heavy, but unlike its Blitz, it's got a lot of rock muscle to back it up. Spitting Off the Edge of the World is a powerful opener, although it sounds a bit too much like Cry Little Sister from the Lost Boys soundtrack. That part that goes, "Thou shalt not fall." They borrow that from Cry Little Sister. But I still really dig the track. And I'm really not crazy about Spit. So I'm not that crazy about the video, although I've seen it many times anyway. But the 4 tracks in the middle of the album, I've got it 5 stars. Wolf is such a great song. Fleas has some great bass. Burning is absolutely fantastic, as is the subdued Black Top. Fabulous vocals from Karen O. But different today, it's merely good. I'll give it a good. It's I don't know, kind of an unremarkable synth pop song. And then the closer, Mars, is a short spoken word piece. It's good, but not remarkable. But overall, I'm pumped for this album. I think it's excellent. At only 8 tracks, it is a bit short. And I try not to, hold release, the length of releases against them. But I still kind of feel like, especially with that short one at the end and the penultimate track not being great, they could have used a few more tracks on this. But I'm a fan of this band, so I'm still at 4.5. Love this album.
Okay, then. If you're at 4.5, I'm still at 2.5. My number 4 being It's Blitz. Yeah, this is another record to which I really just felt very little one way or another. This is pretty much them fully removing themselves from any of the loose punk styles of the previous two records. They're basically working from more of an indie pop or synth pop direction here. And if I'm being honest, I think it probably better suits Karen O's vocals. I think that she sounds very lovely over these songs. However, the songs are just very bland. I feel like Karen is remarkably more talented than the other members of the group. She is far more character and more personality than anybody else to me. And I just feel like putting her into any other band, I feel like would suit me so much better because I just get nothing from the other two as players. I don't know. There's some decent cuts on here, some fairly pleasant moments. But on the whole, for me, it's just not a very exciting album. I thought Soft Shock was pretty good. I do really like Skeletons, and the closer, Little Shadows, I think is pretty great. I don't know. It's 2.5 for me. I think it's fine enough, but I just don't really get much personality from the actual songs themselves. I feel like I'm on a totally different wavelength on this group to most people. I don't hear a lot of real passion, if that makes sense to me. It just feels very flat, somewhat muted in this side. Once again, I'm definitely wrong. I know people love this band. It's just
No, it's all good. You're like Cramser. Cramser called this band the OK OK OKs.
he's right. They are okay. But yeah, number 4, it's Blitz, 2.5 stars.
My number 4 is Mosquito, and I have that at 3.5 stars, which is down from where it was 5 years ago. I really loved this album when it came out. I thought Sacrilege was maybe their most, it was their highest achievement as a song. They just did so much there. There was so much growth in that one song from everything they had done previously, just in terms of the arrangement, the vocal, even the lyrics, because I don't consider them lyrically a strong band. That's not their go-to. What they're best at is energy, and surprisingly enough, gentle ballads they do very well with also. Um, but on repeated listens over the last couple of weeks, I've found it less interesting than I had in the past. I still like Area 52 and Despair. I think is that's going to show up on my song list. That's just a tremendous track. But the rest of it does not hit me like it did 10 years ago, and I'm a little disappointed by that because I really loved this album when it came out, but I still have it at 3.5 stars. It's a good album. It's got two of their greatest songs on it, but it's got a lot of songs they just could have done more with them, more energy, more I don't know, just more guitar also would have helped this album. I don't know. Brian Zimmer was taking the month off or whatever, or he had late duty for this album. So that's my number 4, Mosquito, 3.5 stars.
All right, cool, Mark. My number 3 is Mosquito, and that's from 2013, their fourth album. I totally slept on this one when this came out, and for no good reason. I heard a little of it at a listening station, and that was it. I had come off of It's Blitz, which I wasn't crazy about, but it was a big mistake to pass this by. I think this album is fantastic. Sacrilege is a strong opener. It's got that some churchy vibes and those gospel background singers. Subway is mellow and eerie, and I love the way train track sounds are used to keep the beat. Uh, the title track is so cool, and Karen sounds really great singing I'll Suck Your Blood. Under the Earth is great, and it's got some cool trippy dub effects that I really like. Um, the production of the whole album is great, I think. Um, I've got most of these songs at 5 stars. I think they all work well together, and there's some good variety here. It's the perfect length. Um, I don't have much else to say about it. I think it's prime triple yes, and I'm up to 5 stars.
Uh, I'm glad you love them, man. I wish I could have some enthusiasm. However, it looks like we're gearing up to have the same top two. As my number three is going to be Cool It Down. And yeah, this being at number three feels very high to me. But I don't know. I'm still at 2.5. I think it's an okay record. But that's it. It's a perfectly pleasant indie rock experience. Pretty much all of the edge is gone. It's rather clean cut and unique musically. There's just nothing for me to really latch onto here. Even Karen's voice, I feel like, is less exciting, despite me still enjoying it. I don't know. This is kind of where I disagree with Mark. I feel like they do a bunch of different styles and mix things up a lot. I don't feel like they ever truly evolve. Like it's almost like costumes to me. They're consistently trying out different things, but they never fully properly fit, you know? I don't know. I did really enjoy the opener, Spinning Off the Edge of the World. Hearing that it's more of a Perfume Genius song, that probably makes sense. I thought Blacktop was pretty good as well. I don't know. Past that, I just didn't get a ton from it. I'm sorry. I I just feel so little towards this band, and it's like it feels wrong because this should be in my sweet spot. It's the era of music that I love the most, with really my favorite style. It's just something about them as writers and them as performers that just doesn't resonate. Still at 2.5 for Cool It Down, number three.
Oh, you're really very resistant to them so far. My number three is It's Blitz. Um, I loved this album when it came out. It was a 5 star for me when it came out. I just loved the new direction because I felt like they had gone from being very punk to more of a polished punk, and then into kind of a rock and pop hit making type of sound. Uh, but after repeated listenings, I'm finding I love the first half of it: Zero, Heads Will Roll, Soft Shock, Skeletons, and especially Dull Life. But then the second half of it kind of starts to lose me a bit, and as a result, it's dropped from a 5 to a 4 for me, 4.0. I still love the first half of it. I can put that on at any time, but I'm not always going to get all the way to the end. Anytime after Dull Life, I can find myself turning it off and switching to something else. But it's still a great album. But again, like I said, it's front loaded. Back half is a bit of a chore for me. It splits at number 3, 4.0.
All right. So we're at number 2. And this is a toughie. These top two are neck and neck, but I'm going with Show Your Bones from 2006, their second album. And I seriously considered making this my number 1. I'm crazy about this album. I kind of see their debut as their punk album, and this one is sort of like their post-punk album. I have no idea if the band would agree with that. Just sort of a thought that came to my head. I think they are a bit more tuneful and melodic on this one. The songs are catchy as hell, and I think they are just so fucking cool. This is the last album they made where the guitar is clearly the dominant instrument, but the drums are also phenomenal, I gotta say. Brian Chase, that's his name. Nick Zinner, the guitarist. Um, They struggled to make this one though, and almost broke up over it at one point. There were a handful of songs which they scrapped because they were too similar sounding to the debut. But I think all of their hard work pulled off in spades. I give all of these songs 5 stars, except for Honey Bear, which is still very good. The Shimmering Dudley is probably my favorite, even though it plays off of the Hush Little Baby nursery rhyme. The chorus is so exhilarating, but Gold Lion, Fancy, Cheated Hearts, Turn Into, they're all phenomenal. Plenty of other great ones. I've listened to this album a ton, never get sick of it. Obviously, 5 stars.
Yeah, I knew this was happening. My number two is Fever to Tell. I I don't know. I wasn't sure what to expect going into the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, but I think the debut is very interesting. It's a unique blending of garage rock, indie rock, and electronica, all with a modern day punk edge to it. Parano is a good singer, and the band is solid, but I don't know. This is kind of where the red flags waved, but because the playing never fully draws me in here, and there isn't really that much of a song that I properly get into until Black Tongue. I thought Pain was cool, and I also liked Cold Light. I don't get why Maps is considered to be such a great song. To me, it's honestly not that far off from like an 80s Pretenders hit, just with worse production. I don't know. I kind of got like Get Close vibes, weirdly enough. And I don't know. The closing tracks, Modern Romance and Poor Song, they're both pretty good. I don't know. There's plenty to enjoy here. It's just less so my style. It's less indie rock and more so kind of like dance punk at points. I have it at 3 stars. I get it. I see why somebody would love it. It's just far from a personal favorite of mine. And I found myself better connecting with the sophomore release. So number two, Fever to Tell, 3 stars.
Um, I'm more like Rich here. I have Fever to Tell and Show Your Bones neck and neck. They, for most of the last 20 years, I had them at 5 stars, both of them. I wasn't always sure which one I preferred over the other, but about 10 years ago, I kind of locked into Fever to Tell at number two. That one is, I mean, it's just all, well, most of it is just all raw energy. It's just so much energy there. I, I bought the album after having heard Maps, and that's what I went in for. I was expecting more of that, and what I got was a total bait and switch, but I loved it. They took me for a ride, and I was thrilled. It was just so raw and vulgar, and um, it was. I'm having a hard time finding words for it right now. I just loved it so much. It was not like anything I was listening to at the time, and it just opened up a new avenue for me. I played it nonstop, incessantly. It's got so many great songs on it: "Date with the Night," "Black Tongue," "Maps," "Y Control," "Modern Romance." And one thing they seem to do is they always slow it down at the end. They don't end with a banger. They end with something that tells you we're done here. The album's over. Time to take a rest. And Modern Romance is just so good at that. It's slow. It gives you a chance to catch your breath after all the energy that was expended in the first 10 songs. It's just, I considered it a perfect album for a long time. I've not as attached to it as I was. It's coming in at 4.5 stars for me now, but it's a high 4.5, just slightly under a 5. I love this album. I've never tired of it. I just don't have as strong a connection to it now as I did 10, 15 years ago, but still tremendous album. Fever to Tell, number two at 4.5 stars.
Well, shit, Mark, I'm sad to see your appreciation for them fade a little bit, but that was a very good review, very well said, and you make a good point about maps being kind of a bait and switch there. It is a different kind of song from the rest of the album, I'd say. But yeah, that is my number one, Fever to Tell, the debut from 2003. And I just got to give it to this one. It's so full of punky energy and infectious songs. I don't know. I just think they're so exciting. They pump me up. Obviously, Rich, the opening song, that's going to be a favorite track of mine. It's practically my anthem.
Your theme song plays
uh,
whenever you walk into the room.
that'd be great. Get on that, God. Um, but this album is just bam, 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 one banger after another. I think it makes for one hell of a party album. Loads of muscular guitar and interesting, super catchy riffs. Black Tongue is a killer with that line, "Boy, you're just a stupid bitch, and girl, you're just a no good dick." Oof, what's that? No, 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 totally rocks. But then it gets slow and wigged out midway through, which I really dig. Then you have the phenomenal Maps, which was the huge hit, deservedly so. Um, it doesn't rock out as much as the most of the other tracks here, like we said, but it has a controlled intensity that is quite compelling, I think. And this song points the way to where they would go on their next album. Then comes Y Control. That song just kicks major ass. Finally ends with the easygoing modern romance. And Mark is right. It's the perfect come down to the album. And then the even more laid back Poor Song, which was a hidden track on the CD. Karen O does fantastic things with her voice. The guitars and drums rock hard. Fever to Tell is just unbeatable. My number one.
Feel like I should mention it because it's happening. Some people are doing their deep dives into '03 for TLM. How high would that record place for you guys if you had to guess off the top of your head?
Very high. I
It,
can't remember what I had for that, but could be number one. I can't remember.
it would definitely be in my top three.
I think '03 is a pretty good year, but
Yeah,
bit of a cool down after '02, which is just insane.
but in three, I know my number one is Reality,
Ooh,
David Bowie, and number two
Ooh.
is probably either this one or Citizen Cope's debut.
oh, nice. My
Yeah,
winner's
Reality's up there for me too. I love that album.
yeah, that one's killer. My winner's my boy Rufus by a decent margin though. So, anyways, back to yeah yeah yeahs. Number one for myself and Mark. Show Your Bones. I'll cut to the chase. I like this album. 3.5 stars. I got to good. Good job, Karen O and guys. I don't know. Really, this album took everything that I liked about the debut and it just elevates it. It's a bit less punky overall and finds itself taking a bit more of an overall indie approach here, which I tend to prefer. Karen O's voice has already developed a bit more, and she sounds great across this record. Oftentimes, she reminds me a lot of the Quinn sisters from Tegan and Sarah, and I love their voices, so that is no issue from me. And the band here just seems to be a bit of a tighter unit, and the electronic elements are far more naturally incorporated into the music. I don't know. The songs themselves are still kind of hit or miss. Not crazy about Fancy. Honey Bear is okay. And very contrary to Rich, I didn't think Dudley was anything too special. I thought that one was fine. Despite that, though, the final three songs, Sweets, Warrior, and Turn Into, are all great. I think that those are really what showcase the Maximus talents of this group. But yeah, I thought that this was a pretty good rock record. Has some great energy to it. And if this was what like the rest of the catalog was like, I would totally understand why people would consider themselves like an icon of the scene. But hey, it's a perfectly good record, and I would listen to it again. My number one going to be "Show Your Bones," 3.5 stars. I liked it.
Okay, my number one is also Show Your Bones. Um, I loved it from I bought it the day it came out. I loved it immediately. I especially gravitated to Cheated Hearts. I thought that was just a tremendous song. I didn't see that coming from them, being more of a, it's basically a pop song. It's not the punky rock that they were doing on Fever to Tell. My feeling when I heard this album was that it was everything that Fever to Tell had, but better. They had smoothed out the edges. They had improved the songwriting. The production was a little cleaner, and it was just it was Fever to Tell uh, on steroids. Dressed up and taken out. I just thought it was a perfect album when it came out. I love especially well, Cheated Hearts. I've mentioned Phenomena. Turn Into is just that might be my favorite closer. There is just so good. Mysteries, I love that. That doesn't sound like anything else they do. It's they really spread their wings on that. I thought I didn't see that coming from them. I thought after Fever to Tell, I knew what they were all about, and they surprised me. I felt like they had grown tremendously from one album to the next, and it was just a tremendous album. I originally had that at a 5. I've come down a little bit on it. It's at 4.5. It's tied with Fever to Tell as far as ranking. But they're both still great albums. I just happen to like Show Your Bones a little bit more. And I want to also add here that in 2007 they released the EP Isis, and that one I felt like, why was that a separate disc? Those songs should have been on Fever to Tell. If they had taken the 3 weakest songs off Fever to Tell and 3 strongest songs off of Isis, they would have had the perfect album. It would have been bulletproof at that point. And the songs already existed. They were playing them live, but they didn't make the cut for Show Your Bones. That I felt was a misstep on their part. What was a 5 could have been a 6. Would have been that good if they had just swapped out a few songs from one to the other. But I still love the album. I listen to it to this day. I don't skip. There's no skips to it. I just love it. It's great. Show Your Bones, number one.
Nice.
Did you get to a 5 on that one?
I brought it back to 4.5. It used to be a 5, but it's 4.5 now.
All right.
If they'd have put Isis on it, it would have been a 5. It would have been a 6 then. It would have been so good.
Hey, nothing wrong with a 4.5 there. So, yeah, that's the beauty of a Spotify playlist. You can now add those songs in and sort of make your own sort of order. See how that plays for you. That being said, this is a rich episode, so we get to talk about songs now.
All right. Cool. All right. I'm going to breeze through some honorable mentions here. The first of all, the self-titled debut EP, pretty much that whole thing is brilliant. I think that gets an honorable mention. I'll just say straight out, my top 10 is all Fever to Tell and Show Your Bones songs. So I'll skip those honorable mentions. Suffice it to say, they're kick-ass albums. Go check them out. So that leaves Skeletons from Its Blitz, Under the Earth and Wedding Song from Mosquito, Wolf Burning and Blacktop from Cool It Down. And Mark's right, we can't forget the Isis or Is EP. Especially the first 2 tracks, Rockers to Swallow and Down Boy. Those kick major ass. And the last track, 10 by 10, is great as well. And also, I love the remix of Pin on their Machine single. It's like totally wigged out and trippy. I love that kind of shit. All right, so my top 10. Number 10, I've got The Sweets from Show Your Bones. Number 9, No, No, No from Fever to Tell. Number 8 is Man from Fever to Tell. Number 7, Turnin' 2 from Show Your Bones. Number 6, Y Control from Fever to Tell. Number 5, Gold Lion from Show Your Bones. Number 4, Fancy from Show Your Bones. Number 3, Dudley from Show Your Bones. Number 2, Black Tongue from Fever to Tell. And my number 1, of course, Rich from Fever to Tell.
Nice. We shared 2 in total. It's kind of interesting because I felt like the albums kind of sorted themselves out in an obvious order, but songs, I figure I'll cut to the chase. I think they have basically one great song that was obviously my number 1 from when I first heard it, and then a bunch. To clarify, I had like 17 songs in the entire mix for this top 10. I do like all those songs. The 3 that just missed for me were Gold Lion, Poor Song, and Blacktop. But I actually have every album in my top 10, shockingly enough. So let's get into this. Number 10, I have Cheated Hearts from Show Your Bones. At number 9, I have Little Shadow from It's Blitz. Number 8, I have Soft Shock from It's Blitz. Number 7, I have Sweets from Show Your Bones. Number 6, I have Spitting Off the Edge of the World from Cool It Down. Number 5, I have Warrior from Show Your Bones. Number 4, I have Cold Light from Fever to Tell. Number 3, Turnin' 2 from Show Your Bones. Number 2, Way Out from Show Your Bones. And number 1, pretty easily my favorite Yeah 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 song from my least favorite album. It is Sacrilege from Mosquito. I think that is a really awesome song. I love that one a lot. So even if I didn't really care about doing this discography, I'm really glad to know that song because that song is so good. Number 1, Sacrilege from Mosquito.
Okay, I have a few honorable mentions also. I have Area 52, Skeletons, Phenomena, Kiss Kiss, Heads Will Roll, 10 by 10, Y Control, and Mysteries. And then getting into the top 10, at number 10, I have Despair from Mosquito. Number 9, Dull Life. Number 8, Sacrilege, also from Mosquito. 7, Zero from It's Blitz. 6, Turnin' 2 from Show Your Bones. 5, Date with the Night, Fever to Tell. 4, Cheated Hearts, Show Your Bones. 3, Black Tongue, Fever to Tell. Number 2, Maps from Fever to Tell. And number 1, this song blows me away, is Isis from the Isis EP.
Nice.
I think that's their finest rocking song as far as I'm concerned.
Guess I got some EPs to check out. See if maybe length could have been an issue in regards to this. I don't know. I wanted to like the Yeah Yeahs more than I'm sorry, but this was my least favorite of the season 2 artists that I've covered so far. I still like plenty about this group. I think Kara now is a really strong front woman. And I do think that Show Your Bones is genuinely a really strong album.
I bet you'd have a good time if you saw them live.
Yeah, maybe.
I've been dying to see them live for 20 years, and they just don't come my way. That really annoys me. That's part of the reason why I've got a little bit of distance with them now. They just haven't they haven't serviced the fans enough. Other bands do, and I love live music, and I think they would be a great live show. I know on some of their tours they've added a 4th person who's played with them on stage. Their sound has grown beyond the 3 people in the band. And I think another thing that if they're going to continue to exist, I think they need to add a permanent 4th member, someone to play all those keyboards that are in the sound now. A little bass wouldn't hurt. I think they took the drum and guitar sound as far as they could, and they've grown past that, and just add another person, make it a 4-person band, and you really explore what you can do.
It'll be cool to see if they put out another album this decade, though.
If they want to have any fans, they should. I know I'm not the only person that's grown impatient with them.
They need
But I
another
salute you,
direction.
Rich, for not giving up on them.
Well,
Well, they'll probably find some weird new direction. I think they kind of have to. They haven't really changed that much on their as much on their last three albums, I guess. I don't know. A lot of sense.
I mean, hey, maybe that'll be better for me. So completely alienates you both, but I'm like, this is 5 stars. I love this record. I don't know. Time will tell. That being said, that was the discussion upon the Yeah Yeah Yeahs. Bit of an interesting group, definitely varied, possibly for better or worse, depending on which of the three of us you talk to. That being said, I really hope that you enjoyed this discussion. Hope it didn't bum you out. Hope that Rich gave you life. You'll have a great life.